Hello, and thank you for attending this Moorepay webinar, which will take us through actually setting up the hierarchy within the Moorepay payroll and HR system. My name is Edward Evans, and I'm one of the trainers at Moorepay. So we'll be going through the entire process today on this webinar, and that will include, if we just go onto the screen here, looking at what the hierarchy actually is and what that hierarchy is made up of. There are a number of different steps that you have to go through, 7 of them specifically, and we will go through each of those steps in the webinar today. We'll also go through refreshing the hierarchy, as this is quite important to make sure that it functions correctly, and then we'll round off by having a look at the reports that are available in the system. So the first thing that we're going to look at is what the hierarchy actually is. So the hierarchy shows an organization's structure, detailing the reporting lines for each of the employees. The hierarchy drives all the approval processes and workflows within the Moorepay HR system. So for example, it will drive leave requests, employee self-service, timesheets, that kind of thing. The hierarchy is actually made up of different organizational levels and organizational units, and also positions and security profiles, as you can see on this screen here. Each of these will be explained in more detail as we go through the webinar today. So we will have to create each of these levels and each of these organizational units in order for the hierarchy to work properly. So there are actually 7 steps to building the hierarchy, as I've already mentioned, and they are on the screen here now. So first of all, you have to take a pen and paper and you need to draw out your hierarchy. It's a little bit like a family tree, if you like, if you do any genealogy yourselves. I do dabble a bit myself. It's just like having a family tree, really. So you have to create that first, and then once you've actually defined the tree, the organization chart, you then need to create the levels that you need, create the organizational units. Once you've done that, you then have to create and define the positions for the employees, assign those positions to the employees, and then afterwards create security profiles and assign those security profiles as well. So that's what it's made up of. And the first thing that you need to do, as I say, is to draw out your organizational structure. Now this will be the base of your hierarchy, and to draw the structure you start from the top of the tree and you work down through the organization levels and positions that are required and where they report under each managerial position. Now once you've actually drawn this out, you would then move on to step 2. So as you can see here, we've got our CEO and the main directors, the managers who report to those directors, and then the different employee types who report to the managers. So that's when you've drawn out your organizational structure. That's when you've had your family tree created. So the next thing that you have to do is to create the levels. Now, by looking at the organization structure, you will be able to determine the levels that you require. Any row on the structure which has a managerial position would need a level creating. Any row which has an employee position would not need a level creating. So as you can see on here, we have 3 levels there that have managers in them. So we've got level 1, level 2, and level 3. The ones below that are employee positions, therefore they do not need a level because they will just report in via the organizational units, which we will go through shortly. So there are only really 3 levels that need to be created on this system. So the first thing to do is to actually create your levels. So that is what we are going to do now. So to create the level, you have to go into the administration area, and from the administration area, you go to organization, and in organization, you then have to pick up organization levels. Now, once you're in there, you would then click on New at the top corner there above the level number and the level name, and that will then allow you to define the levels. Now, it's a very simple process. In our case, we've just decided to have level 1 as the CEO, and the level name is just level 1, so it's nice and straightforward. Once you've done that, you then click Save, and that's your levels created. In our instance, as I say, we need 3 levels, so we would have to create another 2 of those in order to have the levels that we require. So once you've actually created the levels, you then need to create your organizational units. The organizational units provide the security around who is able to see what information within a group of employees. Now, multiple positions can sit within the same organizational unit. However, there can only be one manager within each organizational unit. The naming format that we use for the organizational units within the system starts at U0001, which would be Unit 1, and next it would be U0002, U0003, and so on. So if we just have a look here, there is our first organizational unit, the CEO and the PA to the CEO. So they are U0001. The next one is the service director. They don't have anybody within their own organizational unit there, but they are just U0002. U0003. Now within level 3, the customer service manager has 2 sets of employees below them. Therefore, U0004 has to encompass the service manager and the advisors. The same goes for U0005, 6, and 7. So looking at our organizational structure on the screen, we then have to work through and draw on the organizational units. So as you can see on there, we've got a number of them where the organizational unit is sharing the manager with the advisors. The surrounding positions are managerial positions at level 3 there. So in order to stop them being able to see each other, if you like, then they all have to be in separate units. So that's why we've got these laid out the way that they are. Because if we put all of the managers in the same unit, they would all be able to see each other's information as well as all the staff information below them, and it would just get a bit chaotic. So that's the reason why you need the organization and units, to make sure that people aren't seeing data that they don't need to see. But the next thing is how you actually create the organizational units. So the next thing that we need to do is to go back into the administration area on the system, and we then go into organizational units. And in the organizational units, you then click New, once again at the top corner there. And once you click New, that takes you into this screen here. So the first thing that we need to do is put in the organizational unit ID. And the one that we're going to create is U0002. U0002 is the next one available after U0001, which is the CEO organizational unit. So the level number relates to step 1. Looking back at the structure, the service director sits in level 2. So using the drop-down box in the level, we need to select that level. So if you have the location set up, you can select the correct one in the drop-down box. If not, then you can just select 9999, which is the default one. But you do have to, first of all, within the organizational unit, so we've called the service directors U0002, and the title is going to be service director. The short title we're also going to use as Service Director. And if we just have a quick look here at the structure again, so the Service Director is reporting up to level 1, which is the CEO. So the level number is 2 because the Service Director is in level 2. And the location, as I say, is 9999 default unless you've actually had any defined yourself. The next one is to say what the unit, the organizational unit belongs to. So in this instance, the Service Director reports directly up to the CEO, who is U0001. So therefore, that unit ID belongs to U0001. Once you're happy with that, you then just click Save, and that will create the organizational unit for you. Now, once you've actually created the organizational unit, the first time that you do that, it's very important to refresh the organization hierarchy. Now, the process of refreshing the hierarchy is a bit like gluing the pieces together in the jigsaw, and it ensures that all the reporting lines have been refreshed and updated. Now, this process needs to be completed at the end of any change to a hierarchy, and you can run this as many times as you want. The more frequent that you do so, the better. It's always better to do it more than you need to rather than less than you need to. So to complete this process, you need to go into Administration and then go to Organization. And in Organization, you've got Refresh Organization Hierarchy. So all you do on here is you click on Run Process. It will then give you this screen here, and you would just click OK, and that will refresh the hierarchy for you. So it's quite straightforward. It's easy to do, and as I say, do that as often as you like. It's much better to do it frequently than not frequently enough. So the next thing that we need to do is to create the positions within the system. So multiple employees can share a position if they share the same position title and report into the same manager. If they have a different title or a different manager, they will need different positions. So the naming format for the positions starts at 9999 and it works backwards through 9998, 9997 and so on. So we mentioned earlier the 9999 was the default one. So unless you actually amend those yourself, it would always be this way. So looking back at the organizational structure, let's add the position IDs. So at the top we have the CEO, which is 9999, PA, who is 9998, Service Director is 9997, Sales Director 9996. I'm not going to chant that all the way through, but you get the idea. Every single position has its own number. Now we're getting down to the level here where we've got customer care advisors, administrators, etc. Even if you have 100 of each of those, they would all have the same position ID because they are all doing the same job. So once you've actually defined what the numbers are, you then have to create those positions. So the way that you do that is to go into Administration and then Organization, and you then go into Position Definition. Once you're in Position Definition, same as before, you just click New in the top corner, and that will allow you to create the position ID. So we're going to create a position for our Service Director. So the position ID is the next available 99 number. And looking at the structure that we gave, our Service Director is 9997. So the title and the full title will be Service Director. So the position ID is 9997. Title for Service Director, full title, also Service Director. The organizational unit ID, so if we have a look back again at the organizational units, and you can see that we assigned U0002 to the Service Director. So therefore, U0002 is the correct one. Now after that, you going down this tier, so we've got U0002 for that. Now if you have locations, classifications and salary grades set up, then you can choose those here. So location 999 default again, and classification, we are just using the defaults. But as I say, if you have actual classifications and salary grades set up within your system, then you will use whichever relevant one is required for that. The seniority level here, so this is a choice of upper management, middle management, supervisor or employee. So in our example, we're going to choose upper management. Also need to tick if it's a manager position or not. And so on there, manager position, yes or no. So that's the final field to complete, which is the reports to. So if we then have a look at the position levels here, and you can see the service director actually reports to the CEO in position 9999. So if we go back to this, manager position, yes it is, it's a manager position, and then it reports to position 9999, who's the CEO. Once again, once you're happy with that, then you would just save it, and that is the position created. So you have to do that for every single position that's available, right down to the employee level. Now, after you've actually assigned, created the position, you then have to assign the position. And the way that you do that is if you go into personnel, and then in personnel, you go to contract details, and in contract details, you will find the heading position. So you go into the position, and once you've actually gone into there, you then have to pick up the person that you're looking for. So you find the employee that you wish to put in that position. So in our example, it's going to be Bernie Cook. As you can see there, we've picked up Bernie Cook there, and that's going to be our service director. So currently Bernie is not sat in a position. So using the drop-down box, we select the 99 number, which in our case is 9997. That will populate the title and the reports to position and the title. So everything, as you can see there, it knows from the position ID what the reporting structure is for that particular person now. So it fills all those in. If it's a new employee, on the higher screen, you'll pick up the position number and the position ID field. So if you're just filling this in for people who are already in the system, then you have to go in here. But other than that, you can actually put the position in on the higher screen if it's a brand new employee. Now, once you've done that, once you've actually assigned the position, your department in there as well, you then just save it, and that person has been set up. Now, within the system there as well, you've got the company details, the company code, etc. So you will need to select those as well. This is on the higher screen. So as I mentioned, if it's a new member of staff, then you would go into the position part of the screen. But if it's an employee who is just being put on the system, then you would do it through the position ID on the hire screen itself. So this is the hire screen. This is as if we're creating a brand new employee, and we've got the position ID there on the hire screen. So once you've got your positions in place and you've assigned your positions, we then have to have a look at security profile. So the security profile reflects the organization unit structure. It's the key that the security profiles are kept updated and correct to ensure that the managers see the correct groups of employees. Each organizational unit which has a manager position in it will need a security profile creating. So if we have a look here, we have U0001, U0003, U0007. They are feeding into each other. U0007 feeds into U0003 and U0003 into U0001. So each of those would require a security profile. So on here, as I say, the telesales manager sits under organizational unit U0007. So the profile that we will create for that will be U0007. U0007 sits in level 3, which reports into U0003, who is the sales director, which is in level 2. They then report to the U0001, the CEO, who is in level 1. So just to recap there for it. So the security profiles don't fall under the administration section of the Moorepay HR, as all the previous steps have done. These actually come under security. So in order to create the security profile, you need to go into Security, Define Security Profiles. You can see that on the side there. And once you're in there, you then have to click on New, and that will allow you to create the security profile. So for this example, we are creating the unit for our telesales manager, which was U0007. Therefore, that's our security profile. Now, the pay frequencies are used if you wish to restrict which pay frequency a manager can view. So, for example, if you have a weekly and a monthly payroll, and you wanted this manager to only be able to see people in the weekly payroll, you would choose the W in the first frequency box. If you do not wish to restrict any frequencies, then you leave this section and the system will default to all the pay frequencies. Now, the active employee only box on there, so we've got our structure here. This is what we're going to try and create now. So we've got the pay frequencies, and after the pay frequencies are in there, then we then have to have a look at the way that this is working. So we're looking at the levels of the reporting structure for this particular system. So the active employee only tick box is used so that a manager will not be able to see the employees who have left the company. So if you tick this box, they will only be able to see the current employees. So this active employees one above the U0001. If you only want the managers to see the current staff and not the leavers, then you would tick that box on there for them. So as I say, the next section is the levels. Looking back at the organizational structure, the level 1 is U0001. So if we just go back to the previous screen there, U0001 is where the sales director reports to, and therefore level 1 is going to be U0001. Level 2 is U0003, because that's the one that the director is actually in. And level 3 is U0007, and that's because they're the ones that they are feeding into. So once you've actually set that up, you then click Save, and that will create the security profile for you. Now, once you've created your security profile, then you have to assign that to an employee. So this will then give them the access to the correct group of employees that they need the access for. So to assign a security profile to an employee, first thing you have to do is go into security, and then in security, you go to define users. So we've got define users at the top there, and in define users, you would then click new to add a new user. So for a manager or admin user, the user type will be standard. So once we've done that, we then have to pick up an ID number for the employee. So this will also populate the login username field with the employee's business email address. So we're going to pick up ID number 0001, and that will then also assign the username as the business email address. Now, the group profile field is where you differentiate between admin or manager. Access profile, again, is either admin, access, or manager. So if we just go down to the profile there, so the group profile there, in this instance, we want them to have the manager profile, and their access profile would also be manager access. The security profile field is where you pick up from the drop-down menu the security profile that you've just created. So we created the v17.4.00 security profile, and we're dropping that one into the field now. Now, once you click Save, it will then email the employee with their login username and their password. And when they log in, they will then have access to see the group of employees which you've set up as their access level. So they will only be able to see the people within that area. Now, once again, at this point, we've been doing a lot of work. So at this instance, we need to refresh the organization hierarchy again. So it's always a good time whenever you're doing anything like this, as I say, the more that you do the refresh, the better. So remember to do it as much as you can to make sure everything is kept up to date. Now, that's how you create the hierarchy. So the theory is straightforward enough, although depending on how elaborate your hierarchy is, will depend on how easy it is to actually implement it, of course. But the final thing that we're going to have a look at is the reports that are available within the system. So there are 3 reports that you can run regarding the hierarchy within Moorepay HR: the position structure report, the organization structure report, and the position structure. All of these are found in administration and organization. So you go into the administration menu and then go into organization. Now, the first one that you'll see in there is the position structure report. This report is used to see which employees sit within a position and also any other positions which report into the selected position. So to run the position structure report, first of all, you have to select the position that you want to look at. And then once you've selected the position, you then look at the levels and select those, and then who you need to include in the report as well. Once you've done that, you then click Run Process, and this will give you a PDF document, as you can see here. So we've just got our little position structure report there. Now, the next one is the organization structure report. And the organization structure report works in the same way as the position structure report, but it shows which positions sit within which organisational unit. So in order to do that, you select the organisation unit which you wish to look at, and then the levels will default to 0, and then you select yes, whether you want to include positions within the include positions box, and then you choose run process, and that will then give you the PDF document again. So we've got our levels on there that we want to look at, and then whether or not to include the positions, and then it will generate this report for us. The final report is the position structure report, and this provides a hierarchy flow on a selected position within the positions which report. So first of all, with this one, you have to, you'd open it up. So you first of all have to choose the position ID that you actually want to run the report for. And then you would use the plus and minus boxes as shown to open up and close further sections of the hierarchy. So the ones that you want to be able to see, you would click on the plus or minus buttons below the position IDs that you can see on there. Now, in order to see the names of the employees who sit within each position, you click the arrow in the job title box and then choose position occupants, and this will open a pop-up showing you which employees sit within that position. So you've got there. So the first thing that we've got there is the plus and minus below each of the levels. Position ID 997. And then if you click on that on the arrow, it will then allow you to choose the occupants if you want to. So we've got those on there. So that's the position structure report, and that is the final report that we need to go through. Now, as far as the session goes, I hope that it has been useful for you today. That's everything that we need to go through. If you do have any questions about it, then there are headings within the help files on the system itself. And of course, if you do need to speak to anybody, then if you're within the implementation period, then your implementation advisor will be able to help you out. And also, if you're beyond that, then your customer service person or people, depending on the level of service, will be able to help you out with any questions that you have as well. So that's the few different levels that you've got if you do have any queries that you need answering after the session. So thank you very much for your time today. I hope it's been very useful for you, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you very much. Goodbye.